Good morning. So as you might know, a traditional yoga class starts with a practice we call pranayama. And typical pranayama practices are usually a breathing practice, but prana actually means energy. So an easy way to shift our energy is to change the breath. Like we've always been told, if you're upset, take a deep breath, count to 10, it shifts the energy, that sort of thing. But there are other ways to tap into that energy as well. And I thought today we would play with a non-yogic tradition one. We're going to play with one from neuroscience, and we're going to do cross-body stimulation. So we're basically just going to bring our arms across the midline, bilateral stimulation, and we're going to tap back and forth. Now, I tend to hold my tension in the chest, in the diaphragm, so I find these trigger points here at the sides of my sternum, and I can do this, or if that's kind of awkward, I can make it a little bit bigger. Someone else I know holds a lot of tension in her throat, so she pinches her earlobes back and forth to get the nervous system to relax. Our nervous system is our electrical system, our energy system. So take whatever feels appropriate for you, wherever you hold your tension. Go ahead and find that place, and we're going to simply tap back and forth at about the rate of heart rate that you want. So maybe 60 or even 50 beats per minute. We're going to slow down our heart rate. Relax our shoulders and take some deep breaths. Take one last deep breath here. And relax. Go ahead and wiggle and stretch those fingers and wrists. Move it through the arms, and the shoulders. Let it move its way up into your neck. Let yourself just go with the flow here. Bring it down through the spine. And move it on down to the hips. So go ahead and wiggle around those legs. On down to the lower legs. All right, so as we play today, I'm going to encourage you to, if you find yourself in a position, we're going to hold positions a little bit longer today. If you find yourself in a position where you feel tension rising, or simply feel stuck in like a stretch, for example, and you feel like you just can't quite get past that sticky spot, I encourage you to, if your hands are free, try tapping. And this one's going to sound a little bit weird, but if it's not going to mess with your balance, you can also do bilateral stimulation with your tongue back and forth inside your mouth, or your eyes left to right. So some ways that you can subtly do bilateral stimulation if your hands are not free. If your feet are free, you might even do some of this, although it's hard to get those over to the other side sometimes. So anyway, let's go ahead and get some bigger movements in here. Let's start with one arm up and over. And we'll start with some play here. And then find the spot that feels like it needs it the most and hang out there. Now this might be, feel like a lot to have going on. So I was trying the tongue going left and right in my mouth. So I've got my side stretching, my tongue going left and right, and I realized that I wasn't breathing. So I'm gonna add that back in myself. Let's play with the other side. First, just be curious and explore it. What does this stretch have for me today? And then pick the spot that feels like it needs it the most. We'll hang out there and breathe. And let it go. Come back up to neutral. All right, let's take our arms up overhead. Shoulders low, so you've got lots of space between your ears and your shoulders. Exhale, rotate the arms down, one to the front, one to the back. Rotate as much as you can, and once your hands touch your leg or the floor, maybe they assist you in twisting just a little bit further. We'll inhale, come back to neutral, arms up, and switch sides. Back and forth. Last one. Back to the center. We're going to take those hands down behind us, interlace the fingers, lengthen out the arms. Now what often happens is the belly sticks forward. We're going to keep the spine as neutral as possible and instead focus on opening through the chest and shoulders. Relax the neck. And let's try shifting those eyes left to right. I'm going to keep my eyelids closed for this. Remembering to breathe. I can slow it down. I'm feeling the neck muscles want to release. And let it go. We'll bring the hands around front, interlace the fingers, tuck the chin, tuck the tail. You're really poly on me. All right, bring it back. Again, relax the hands, stretch the fingers. All right, let's take the legs out wide. We're going to find a straddle and shift our torso. So I'm trying to keep both butt cheeks down on the floor, feel the pelvic bones pressing into the floor evenly on both sides. The movement is from the spine only. All right, so for right now, my rib cage is staying mostly vertical and the stretch is coming from the low spine, moving side to side. We're going to change it a little bit. We're going to do some of that up and over. So we're going to keep moving left and right, but at a much slower pace. Anytime we do this, what we call lateral flexion of the spine, we take a little bit more time. Feel free to go all the way out, your fullest extent, breathing the whole way through. And let it go. Come back to neutral. We'll roll the shoulders back. Again, bring those hands behind, interlace the fingers, lengthen the arms. Tip the navel forward towards the floor. Now my arms are starting to come up a little bit. So instead of having my thumbs on my tailbone, my arms are lifting and I'm going to let my chin drop. And let it go. Let the arms go. All right, bring in one foot to the middle. So one knee's bent, one knee straight. We're going to go back to that rotating look over one shoulder. We'll leave the arms down, look over the other shoulder. Look over towards the long leg and reach out for it with both hands. Bring it back up. Rotate towards the bent knee. Bring this other leg behind. So we've got a quad stretch or hip flexor stretch or both. I'm going to turn and look the other direction. So I'm feeling my ribs. Find those deep breaths here to really stretch the muscles between the ribs. to the center. Let's take that back heel and lift it up. And then reach on back with your back hand. We're going to help the foot bring it in close. Now, in order to disengage the hamstring so that you don't cramp here, if that's something that you have issues with, push your foot away. My arm isn't letting it go that way, but my foot is trying to go that way. That's going to release the hamstring, so you can actually soften the push with your foot and bring it in even closer. And release. Let's switch over to the other side. Bent over here, straight over there. We'll turn and look both ways. Turn and look towards the long leg, reach out for it. In case you haven't been introduced, this is Huckleberry, the yoga cat. And bring it back up. We'll rotate towards the bent knee. Take that back leg and sweep it behind. Rotate up and away, stretching out through the waist. If you tend to have a more relaxed rib cage waist area, you might not feel it here. You might be tighter in the hips and you feel it here. So I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong. If you're feeling it here instead, and release the twist. We'll play with lifting the back ankle. Yeah. In case you don't know, I do this class live as well as on camera to put on YouTube later. And so I'm watching some of my students go, oh, this is a muscle that we don't use very much. And so isolating it in this way can be very helpful for keeping the hips balanced. But before that muscle gets stronger, it does feel like, oh. So be gentle with yourself. Let's go ahead and reach back and grab for that foot. Do that little trick of lengthening out your leg a little bit, feeling that pressure going that way if you need to keep yourself from getting a hamstring cramp. and let it go. All right, let's hop up to our hands and knees. All right, stretch one leg out long behind you. I'm on the ball of my foot, so my heel is up. And I'm going to lift and lower the hip. All right, the knee that my weight is on, I'm going to bring that forward and rest on the shin and put my back foot down. All right, go ahead and lift yourself up so you're feeling that hip flexor stretch. Shift my camera a little bit. And if you're able to hold this stretch with only one hand or with no hands, that's a little bit there. I'd like you to do that bilateral stimulation, that crossing over the midline, and see if you can relax the nervous system into letting go so that you can get deeper into this stretch. All right, we'll switch sides. Stick the second leg out behind you. All of the foot catches your weight, so I'm stretching my calf muscle a little bit. And then lift and lower the hip. All right, bring the knee forward, rest on your shin, big stretch through the hip flexors of the second leg. If you have a free hand or two. If you don't, we can do the tongue or the eyes back and forth. And let it go. We'll bring both shins underneath of us, rest on the heels, roll those shoulders back. We'll take one arm up and over, and this hand is going to push or pull or grab from underneath. Soften the neck, soften the jaw and face muscles. And then if you'd like to, take that elbow even higher. we'll take the other side. Again, push, pull, or grab. Lift the elbow higher if you like. And release. Let's go ahead and take the hands here back to hands and knees. And we're going to circle. Lift the navel towards the spine. Push the ribcage out to the side, down low, other side, all the way around. Other direction. Excellent. Bring the right knee forward, low lunge. I'm going to put a little extra padding under my back knee here, make it a little happier. And lift yourself up. Aki, come on. Lift yourself up so your weight is on your legs, not your arms. We got some choices here. We can do taps here, earlobe tugs, or we can take our hands over our head and tap our own elbows. So that's going to be the most challenging cardiovascularly. And bring the hands down to the mat. Lengthen out your legs, tail goes in the air. Make sure that your back set of toes are facing straight forward, same as your front toes. And wiggle your hips here. Step forward, forward fold. We're going to sit down on our heels. Feel that bit of stretch in the soleus, in the Achilles, maybe in the bottom of the foot. And then lengthen the tail back up to the sky. We're going to take this back and forth. Really press those heels down and tail up. And we get that hamstring lengthening. All right, next time the tail is up, we're going to hang out there and we're going to go left, right with bent knees. So bend the left, bend the right. Keep the soles of the feet on the ground. Let this pull at your hips. So one side is going to shift through the tail and then the other.
slowly walk your feet back. Leave your hands on the mat. So if they weren't quite touching, bend your knees until they can touch, and then slowly step back. Until we get into a downward facing dog. That's kind of that capital A shape. Relax the neck. We're going to do a little bit of shoulder strengthening here. Shift the weight forward to plank. Tight tummy. Press back up. So we're going to inhale to plank. Exhale to downward dog. Come down to all fours again. We'll circle the spine one direction and the other direction. And this time we're going to circle the hips as well. So come forward, weight on your hands like we just did. Push the hips to one side and then back to a child's pose. Come up the second side. We'll circle it all the way around. Other direction. Back to child's pose. Bring yourself on up. Bring the second knee forward. So for me, this is my left knee. I'm going to go into that low lunge. I'm going to give myself a little extra padding for my back knee. And again, bring the torso up. Find your hands free somewhere. And tap left, right. And let it go. Hands down to the mat. Lengthen out both legs, tail in the air for a pyramid pose. Both sets of toes facing the top of the mat. And wiggle the hips. Step forward, forward fold. And this time, instead of bending one knee after the other, we're going to simply shift our weight to one heel and then the other. So my hips are moving left and right. They're not doing any twisting. Just going straight to the left, straight to the right. Feet are still flat on the ground. I just have all the weight on one and then the other. Alrighty, go ahead and go back to those walking legs and walk them back to downward facing dog. Once you get there, we'll hold it and hang out and loosen the neck. Now when we have weight on our hands like this, we want to be sure that we're pressing down through every knuckle of every finger. You can think of it kind of like pressing out, rolling out pizza crust or pie crust. We want to have that down and away feeling with our hands. That's going to help reduce the pressure on our wrists. Go ahead and bring your knees back down to the mat, but bring them as wide as you can. Press your hips back, child's pose. Bend your elbows, so your hands are going to come to the opposite elbow. Sink those hips as low as you can, and tap left, right with those elbows. All right. Bring it up to hands and knees. Downward facing dog. And walk those feet forward. Forward fold. Bring yourself all the way up to standing tall. Hands high overhead. And then hands down to heart space. Instead of Anjali Mudra like usual, we'll go ahead and do butterfly hands across the heart. And don't even worry about tapping right now at this point. Just putting your hands on opposite sides of the body is going to already start triggering your body to know that you want it to calm down. We're going to shift all of our weight over to one leg.